The idea of being a racist person is so synonymous with being an evil person. And essentially, it feels to me that racism is a cultural bias. It's something that you don't have any cultural experience. You know, my experience moving to New York, you don't have any cultural experience of what racism is until you actually are able to confront it. I found one of the things that, for me, was accepting, like, no, I am a racist. I'm totally a racist. Like, I judge people by the skin of their, color of their skin. Since I moved to New York and I've been around larger groups of people, I've been like, oh, okay, well, obviously, it's lessened over time. And certainly the negative. But I'm talking about positive and negative. I'm talking about an Asian person walking in the room and I go, yeah, they must be really smart. that's still racism. Essentially, you're making. There you go. But it's still, but it's something that's inside of me. I can't help the assumptions I'm making. What I can help is how I'm dealing with those assumptions. And I think for me, all these people are like, well, I'm not racist. No, you are. It's okay. Yeah. But you are. But it's okay. Yeah. It's totally okay. Let's just all get on that level, and then we can start to make it better.
That point, that's a really good point, because I feel very nervous about a whole bunch of white people being guilty about white privilege.
Yes,
that makes me nervous. Don't be guilty, because the last thing, for me, I feel like guilt then inspires defensiveness, which inspires fear, which means, so for me, white privilege, the idea of white privilege and what to do with it, I don't know, I'm not white, but the last thing I want white people to be is guilty. Because whenever you feel guilty about something, you either are shamefacedly, oh, I'm so guilty, punish me, which nobody really needs to do right now, that's not what we want, or, oh my gosh, guilt, I'm gonna hold my cards close because I feel guilty. And that's not, for me, the response to white privilege that I feel will get us anywhere, at all. So my question, I didn't want to kind of backtrack the conversation, but my question was, does acknowledging white privilege necessarily mean guilt? Should it? Is that what we want as a society right now?
I definitely feel guilty, for sure. When I walk into a room and I see black people, I'm just like, okay, let's be top notch. Hey, how are you? You start doing that shit, and you're just like, God, you feel guilty. But that goes along with, for me, that goes along in the same camp as feeling like you're a racist. That's just part of being me. I mean, in this society, and so once I've accepted those things, I can start to move beyond them. But it's scary for me to walk into a room with people who aren't all white. Like I feel an anxiety because I feel like I'm going to screw up. I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm going to piss somebody off, and they're going to think I'm a racist. And I'm like, no, but I'm. Then the machinations are better.
I think it's also I think it's also about pairing that discussion of like what you did with what you can do, which is always like a conversation that I'm having. I just graduated from college, so there was like a bunch of people going around like hurting other people, and the one thing that it was like that we said was like it's okay. It's like there's the myth of like the good person, you're a good person, and reinforcing that it's like what you did was racist. That does not make you a racist. But it's also like here you can just apologize to me and go like go to your corner and think about what you did and like come back to me and like apologize and feel it, and then like here is a list of like things you can do to like improve your life and just like how you move around the world. And I think it really helps if you like pair it like your awareness with action, because in the end like awareness will get you guilt and defensiveness and even worse, pity, which is just the crucifix of my existence. But if you pair it with, if you pair it with actions, which is what I started doing with a lot of like my friends that were saying a lot of very insensitive things towards me, I would say like I think it's fine, just apologize, understand me, and like don't like really think about this and like allow me to like if I'm like allow me to explain to you why, like don't just allow me to help you, like not make this mistake again. And I think people are really receptive towards that. But it's always hard to be in that mindset, as you were saying, of like, let me teach you, like,
It's very open.
yeah, it's very overwhelming because
Yeah,
you're
it's
like,
Here we go.
lesson number 100.
Yeah. At the moment, I'm writing a play. I'm so glad to be part of this conversation because it is about white privilege, but it's about Black community in the 60s, either trying to find access to white privilege or fighting the man, if you will. And there's a conversation between two characters that goes, character 1, someone has to lay down arms. Character 2, well, why does it always have to be Black people? Character 1, because we've got more to lose. And at the end of the day, a conversation has to be had. And as exhausting as that conversation is for people of color to explain and to make sometimes white people feel comfortable to say, well, actually this was racist, but before we go there, I'm going to show you that I'm a normal, non-angry person so that you don't get on the defensive. As exhausting as that is, if the conversation doesn't happen, we're screwed. That's what I think. So, it's a very interesting premise, and I just always feel like if we, and this may be idealistic, but if we talk to people as human to human, even you feeling guilty walking in, feeling like, oh, I'm gonna mess up. If that crowd of non-white people makes you feel comfortable by hour 2, you may be more at ease, and it's not their job.
Yeah.
They don't go into it being like, oh, there's a white man. Let me make sure he's comfortable. But I do think by being who you are and being a free person who's comfortable in your skin, that can happen. I really do. It's not something that's scientific or palpable. There are no steps, but I think it's being free, thinking free, and just existing in that space.
But the fucked up thing is that, like, inside my head, I know there's these unconscious things, these unconscious assumptions that I make about my life.
Tough to deal with.
And when I get comfortable, especially when you get comfortable, is when you start really making those assumptions.
Yeah.
And I find I've hurt more people's feelings when I've been comfortable than I have when I've been like on point in the room. Because I just will say something that's like, I don't even think twice about it being a discriminatory statement at all. And they're like, and that's like, God, how do I even deal with the fact that there's this whole landscape in my psyche that I don't even know what it's about, and that it takes over when I get relaxed.
So what do you do after
work.
that? After you've made the blip, what do you do?
Well, then I beg forgiveness. Then I hope I'm with a bunch of really nice, wonderful people who are going to be like, this is why that was a problem.
But you don't go back to the white people and say, oh my gosh, that was horrible. I'm not going. You know what I mean? You don't, right? You don't retreat to your people that, you push through.
I try to, definitely. Yes,
That's all that I think we can ask for.
I think so too. I can honestly say that I do the best that I can. and I try to, make amends as soon as I make mistakes.
I think like white folks need to talk about this more. Like I do a lot of anti-racism stuff with youth, and we talk about how important it is to be with your identified group. Like to have a space where you're in that group, like if whether it's Black people or Latino people, but to be able to just like let things out, that maybe would be offensive, but have a safe place to do it,
And constructively.
So like if white people can get together and talk about it amongst themselves and acknowledge some of their issues, not talk about it like in racist ways, but acknowledge, that we all have our identities. Our identities are important to us, Like I totally identify as a white person because I grew up with around lots of people of color, so I'm just like, I'm white, like always, like that's just how I think, and I definitely talk about that with like other white people, and I shouldn't feel bad about that, that's real, it's life. But then having those productive conversations in affinity, and then being able to have the conversations once you've reached a certain point of like just being able to talk about it, because I think people do get around other cultures, other people, and we want to do the right thing, and we often do the wrong thing.
Going back to a point that was brought up before, there is actually scientific research on cultural bias. On social psychology, it's like a really big thing that once you start, as you say, hanging out with or seeing people or having these kinds of conversations with people of color, your circle expands to include those, your barriers and the conceptions and assumptions and prejudices and discriminatory statements that you make in your brain will slowly just kind of recede, because you will start having examples of, oh, like when you start spending time with people that are different from you, you will slowly, your knowledge about and assumptions about that specific set of group or identity will slowly just kind of do it. So it's all about increasing conversation with these people and seeing them on a human level, so these prejudices don't continue to exist, because we all, stereotyping is just something that we do, it's how we learn as humans, we see a pattern, but as soon as we begin to see a different pattern or something that contradicts it, then it slowly goes away and is replaced by something. So it's continuous interaction with people will eventually get you comfortable and probably
It doesn't
maybe
make
less-
race go away, so I think that